first person I played with was Art Blakey, and I was 15. The second person I sat in with was that band, and then I later played with them. And the next guy I played with was Philly Joe Jones in New York. And again, I was 16 years old, and Philly, after I played with him, Philly put his arm around me and said, I found a partner. And then from that point on, I started playing. I played a gig with Cedar and Sam and Lou Hayes too. So these are the guys I started playing with immediately, early on. No, I think everybody realized that. Actually, I think they overemphasized that. Sometimes don't talk about how great his drumming was. I think he's always been talked about as being the talent master or talent finder, him and Miles Davis. So, like I said, sometimes to the exclusion of his own artistry. So that's why I'm taking the time to talk about his artistry, because this man could play. I mean, he could swing. I mean, who swung harder? And who played with as much velocity? He was second to none in velocity and musicality. I mean, you know, he emphasized dynamics. He dialogued with you, had a press role that nobody seemed to be able to emulate, you know. And I mean, and he would give 100%. So that aspect is more what people need to realize too. Because yes, we know he discovered Clifford Brown and Horace Silver and Benny Golson and Lee Morgan and Donald Byrd and Jackie McLean and Johnny Griffin and Wynton Marsalis. Yeah, he did all those things, and everybody in between and everybody after. He did that. And from what I understand, he even encouraged Miles to sit in, you know, made Miles feel good when he sat in with Billy Eckstine's band. So that's what this man did. Well, Buddy Rich was so great that probably a lot of people envied him, and he was very cocky. But I met Buddy Rich with Art Blakey. I was at Ronnie Scott's, and I was playing the Jazz Messengers, and Buddy came in with Art, and Tony Bennett and Buddy Rich came in to see Art Blakey. Those two. I mean, and they didn't come in to pay a tribute. They were like old buddies, you know. I mean, Boo and Buddy were like, you know, hey, man, Boo Hainer, you know, and Boo's talking to him. He introduced me to Buddy. And I guess Buddy had a young trumpet player with him, Greg Gisbert. He had just joined the band. Me and Greg wound up being friends because of that. And Buddy must have really liked what he heard that night, because I later saw Buddy and introduced people to Buddy, and Buddy remembered me, and he was very, very nice. Of course, how could he not? Because Joe Jones is the personification of musicality. Never a non-musical note from Mr. Joe Jones, Jonathan Joe Jones. That's probably true. A.T. used to say that he was making all the studio dates because sometimes Philly couldn't make the dates. So he was making all the dates Philly couldn't make, and yeah, he had a very lucrative career doing that, you know. But I guess he got tired of, from what I read, the treatment and harassment that he got in the United States, being an African-American musician, you know. He turned Muslim, he was Muslim, you know, because he wanted to express non-racism things. He wanted to be looked at as a human being. He was Muslim, Art Blakey was Muslim, and Max Roach was Muslim. They were Muslim. And I think it was not Muslim for the sake of racism. It was Muslim to erase racism. You know, they would put on their card, you know, because they were Muslim, they say, well, are you black or white? They would say neither, because not because they weren't, because that shouldn't have been the identifying factor, you know. So that's what Kenny Clark seemed to represent. Tony looked at Buddy and Allan and Max from a technical point of view, and Roy Haynes from a creative point of view, and Buhana and Philly Joe from a pure swinging point of view, and Philly Joe from a technical point of view too, or as he would say, Philly Joe was animated, because Philly Joe play these things and it'd be amazing. It might make you laugh. It would almost lift off the stage kind of thing. Like you ever see Philly sword fight the cymbal and those kind of things. And all musical. So Tony took all those guys and then combined it with free musicians like Sonny Murray. He liked Sonny Murray. You know, he took the things Sonny Murray did and made them technical. He liked Pete LaRocca, he really liked. And he loved Elvin. And what he told me, he said, Elvin broke everything up in triplets. He said, but I wanted to see if he could break everything up in triplets, could I do that with 16th notes, or could I do it with groups of fives, or different groupings, the same way Elvin would do. And he did. He was very successful with it. Unless you're going to sit up there and play somebody's solo note for note, you're going to express what you play through your eyes. You can't play like nobody else. And if you listen to Elvin Jones, you can hear Art Blakey. You can hear, I mean, if you listen to Art, I had a great drummer over the house one day and we were talking about it. And I said, listen to Miles Davis's Old Devil Moon with Art Blakey on drums. Then listen to Elvin Jones play My Favorite Thing. Almost verbatim. Listen to that, and then listen to Roy Haynes and how Roy implies the beat and use those quarter note triplets. Put the two together, and you definitely got Elvin Jones. But then Elvin added some other stuff to it. You know, Elvin emphasizes the upbeats a lot. You know, Elvin's Elvin. You know, and nobody's going to play the drums the way that man. No one's going to get around the kit the way he does. No one's going to hear that way. That man, he's magnificent. He was about the music. I was on tour with Roy with Chick Corea, and everybody was doing their own thing or being silly. I'd go in the back of the bus and look at some movies or just hang to myself. Roy would come back there and just hang out with me and say, yeah, man, and we start talking about everything that happened, and he started telling me all these stories, and man, Roy was my hanging partner, man, and he knew he could count on me to hang and talk about Max and Kluke and Boo and Lester Young and Bird. I mean, this was, and Miles. I told him, Miles said Bird stole his drummer. He cracked up because he knew that's what Miles used to say, He's out there still playing as magnificent as ever, as cool as ever. Roy don't care about nothing, man. He's just playing. He's having himself a ball. And he's contributing to this legacy all the way up to the end. And now he has a grandson who's bad too, So, I mean, this cat's getting up there. And I heard him. I said, whoa, you really got it. There's no joke there, And he loves Roy, man. And Roy used to say that Tony is his son. And Tony is. Tony comes out of Roy Haynes, Max Roach, and Buddy Rich. As he would say Art Blakey. Yeah, so I had to throw Art in there. And he would say Philly Joe, and I'd throw him in there. But if I had to pull them all the way, I could get away with saying Tony come from Roy and Max. But you have to throw Buddy in there because Tony said so, and I heard it. Kenny Clark and Philly Joe Jones and Papa Joe did. They all passed around the same time. Elvin, I'm sure somebody, Elvin passed and James Williams passed, but James is not a drummer. But James was in his band. There was always some sort of groups of three passing, so with Tony Williams and Allan Dawson, passed within a year apart on the same day, and then Clifford Jarvis. And I played with him almost up to his end, He blessed me and played in one of my gigs. My drummer couldn't make it, and Allan subbed for him. And sometimes I wish my drummer stopped making gigs. That's how beautiful Allan was. And to say that Allan was re-influenced by Tony, I mean that, but Allan was his own man. Allan was Tony's teacher. I'm not trying to belittle him by saying that, because the reason why he was those were his concepts in the beginning. I can't say enough about this man and what he could do and the way he was thinking. He was thinking in that kind of advanced way. I played with Philly right before he died. I did a Tamaronian gig with him, and then I did a gig with him with his quintet. Me, him, Clifford Jordan, Larry Ridley, and Walter Davis. We were going to go to Europe before he died. And Philly Joe Jones knew he was going to die. I didn't know that. And he stopped playing his Premier drums and went and got a gold Gretsch kit, a black Gretsch kit. I told Tony about it, and we laughed, and he said, that might have been the Gretsch kit that was Miles that he bought years ago. But he pulled out his old black Gretsch kit, and that's what he started playing with a Premier snare drum. It's funny, I was joking with a drum maker. I said, it seemed like all the drummers, before they died, started playing the old Gretsch kit. Tony, as I mentioned, Tony, right at the end, was telling me how he had just gotten his Silver Sparkle Gretsch kit. He was pulling out, that Gretsch had just made for him, and he was pulling out and enjoying it. And Elvin Jones, before he died, Elvin Jones wanted to put together a big band and do all the music of everything he's ever done, all of his brother's music, and Love Supreme. And he asked me, could I find him a white satin flame Gretsch kit? That's what he said. And he was with Yamaha, but he wanted a white satin. He said, but I don't want it to be beat to death. So, but Elvin passed.